you. Girl, and I want you here with me always. Want you here, said I want you here. Said I need you. Want you near me. You are the one who brightens all my days. All my days, yeah. Whenever we're together, I'm just filled with
welcome. I'm here, are you there? Well, if you are, you are. And we can only hope you are. We can only hope you are, and we say a big good evening to you, and a big warm welcome to Revive on this Thursday evening. What's cooking, London and further afield? How the devil are you? I hope you're doing really well. It is the last Thursday of the month. I haven't forgotten. It is what's it? It must be. I think it's the 7th instalment of my ridiculously titled Strictly Biscuit series. You in the mood for a bit of Leroy Hutson? I'm in the mood for a bit of Leroy Hutson. Boy, if you've got the time, if you've got a couple of hours on your hands, then I'd love you to join me. Stay right where you are. If you fancy some music from the States for the next 2 hours. If you're a first time listener, or if you've never caught any of the Strictly Biscuit series, it's pure indulgence. It's last Thursday of the month. Instead of digging around and playing what I usually play, I'm just focusing on one artist or one group or whatever the case may be, one label. Haven't done labels yet, but yeah, for the whole 2 hours. So it's pure indulgence. And tonight it's Mr. Leroy Hutson, a household name for some, a cult figure for some not too familiar with his name, but I'm a big fan. And for those who like your music from the States in that kind of fashion, then I'll try my best to have some beats for you. For me, he's one of the greats. He's a living legend. And boy, he's one of those dudes that hasn't really had any chart success. He's not really had any accolades. He's one of those dudes that's slightly under the radar for some. He's a bit of a demigod for others. So hopefully, whether you're a fan or not, I'll try to dig into the dude's catalogue a bit. So yeah, that's where we are tonight. So like I say, if you got the time, try and stay right where you got it. If you're a first time listener, we say a big warm welcome. This is London's Revive FM, of course. I'm Daddy Longlegs, your host every Thursday between 8 and 10, just playing some of these old-fashioned CDs. We send a big shout going out to all music lovers, all right, whoever you are or wherever you are. Yeah, let's go. I mean, what can you say? He's 70 now, Mr. Leroy Hutson. I've done a tiny bit of homework. Shall we have a couple of basics? I mean, just to put it in perspective, he's 70. He started making tunes in the late 60s. He's still going strong. There was a concert about, I'm trying to think when it was. I think it's got to be about 5 years ago, or maybe even 3 or 4, or I don't think it was more than 5 years ago, but I'm not sure. It might have even been more, like 6 or 7. I'm not quite sure. But there was the old Rare Groove dudes that put on the concerts called the Legends of Rare Groove. They brought Leroy Hutson over, and he performed live. I missed it, unfortunately. I really wanted to go. He might have even been in Wembley, but I missed it a few years ago. But he's still on the scene. I think he really came to life in the original Rare Groove scene that started in London, in the 80s over here, when them old DJs really started digging around for that funky soul stuff, you know what I mean, in the early mid 80s. Those are the dudes that really brought Leroy Hutson to life, really. And tunes like that I just started with, a tune called All Because of You. That's the album piece, but it was a big 7-inch for the original Rare Groove guys, many of which are still doing their thing. So a big shout to you dudes who are keeping his vibe alive. And there's many people that would know his tunes just from knowing him. You might not know it's Leroy Hutson, or you might not know it's his production or his songwriting. So I'm going to try and scratch a little bit beneath the surface. I'll give you a brief little bit. He was born on June the 4th, 1945, so yeah, he's 70. He's born in Newark, in New Jersey. As a teenager, he was in a 4-man vocal group called the New Tones. They won several talent shows, like early 60s. In the sort of mid-60s, he went to college at Howard University, where originally he planned to study dentistry, but he changed his major to music, and that's sort of the rest is history, if you like, with regard to his music. He was at college with the great Donny Hathaway. Now, Leroy Hutson, most of his music got put out on the Curtain label. He became one of the original sort of sounds of Chicago kind of dude. For me, he wrote some of the greatest, and his music, it just speaks volumes. For me, I love his music to bits. He's got everything. He's like the roots of hip hop. He's the roots of luscious soul. He's the whole arrangement, his whole string thing. He's on another level to most sort of arrangers and artists, and that's why he's hailed as such a kind of cult, kind of demigod, if you like. I'm not overstating it either. You know, a couple of his albums really, they're amongst, you know, all the, you know, the connoisseurs. I'm a bit funny with that word, but you know, he's hailed as one of the proper dudes from that era, and it shows, in my humble opinion, anyway. So hopefully we're going to crack some of his stuff. His first band, official band, he was in. Was in 1967. He was one of the original Mayfield singers for Curtis Mayfield's Mayfield label. They done one single, that was him, Donny Hathaway, and a guy called Guy Draper, who later went on to do the Cap label. And a year later, Leroy had some mild success in a group called Sugar and Spice, which was him and a woman called Deborah Rollins on the Cap label, put a few singles out on the Cap label. But one of his first songs that actually made it, if you like, was a tune that got put out on Roberta Flack's first album from '69. So let me take that now. And her first album, one I'm looking at now on Atlantic, is called First Take. And I never knew this was a Leroy Hutson tune. This is one of my dad's old tunes. There was 2 tunes on this. I used to hunt through his albums when I was little, trying to find some beats. There's one tune on the other side called Compared to What. I eventually hunted it down on a 7, but this was never a 7. It was just on the album. A tune called Trying Times, written by Leroy and Donny Hathaway. There's a version that Donny Hathaway done on his 1970 album as well. But this is the piece. Let me find this on this album. 2-6. Yeah, and it's got he's got the great Ron. What's the bassist name? It'll come to me. He was on a Tribe Called Quest album. Ron, what's his name? Ron, famous jazz bassist, big double bassist. Anyway, the voice of Roberta, the songwriting of Leroy Hutson to kick us off this evening. All right. Good evening, London. Good evening. As we celebrate Leroy Hutson. Rest in peace, Alan Green. Good evening, sir. Geezer's name. Ron what? What's the geezer's name? Ron...
You got confusion all over the land. Mother against daughter, father against son. The whole thing is getting out of hand. But folks wouldn't have to suffer if there was more love for your brother. But these are trying times. Got the riots and the ghetto, and it's all around. A whole lot of things that's wrong is going down. I don't understand it,
voice of Miss Roberta Flack, taken off her first LP, 1969, taken off her first LP called First Take, tune called Trying Times, co-written by Donny Hathaway and Leroy Hutson. I get the picture, I get the sort of impression that because they were mates at college, they sort of began writing loads of tunes together, and because they were part of that original Mayfield Singers group, that, you know, one of Curtis's original 2 labels, put out a tune by Curtis, arranged and produced by him. He was part of that original late 60s Chicago sound. And when I suppose when you cut your teeth under people like Curtis and Donny Hathaway and these kind of dudes, you got some pretty good grounding. I mean, I'm going to play another tune from '69 that he co-wrote with Donny Hathaway and Curtis for another guy before we really get into his stuff. But I mean, just to put this in perspective, between 1970 and 1973, he replaced Curtis. He became the lead singer for the Impressions after Curtis went solo. And I mean, to be fair, I mean, you know, I'm sure he'd say this himself. The Impressions post Curtis, it wasn't quite there. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, but the job he did was great. He did have success with it, but I think that's really where he kind of found his feet as regards to, you know, working under Johnny Pate, working with the great arrangers, working, you know, I mean, come on, you're replacing Curtis Mayfield. Yeah, I mean, that's some big shoes to fill. But core blimey, by the time he went solo in '73, under Curtis's supervision for Curtis's label, under the Curtin label, I mean, Leroy just went in his own direction, hopefully of which I'll be able to play some tunes of him. Right then, before we go for the short pause, let's play this one from '69 as well, a little single that came out on the Uni label, the voice of Mr. Loveless Watkins, once again written by Curtis, Donny Hathaway and Leroy Hutson, arranged by Donny. Let's take this one. Let's take a little 7. Take us up to the short pause. And where's my manners, man? A big thank you to Mr. CC for the last 2 hours. Cracking show as ever. You can catch Cornell tomorrow afternoon. All right. And a big good evening to all his listeners, of course, and any regular listeners that have taken time to tune in. A big good evening to you. Hopefully we'll have some beats for you. Without a doubt. Let's take this one. I do love this tune. I've said before, whenever I played this tune, Loveless Watkins, as far as I knew, he was like a show singer, you know. He'd sing like Sinatra style standards and a big kind of with a big band, a big orchestra behind him. But he put out an LP for Uni, and he definitely put out this 7 because I've got it right now. A tune called Gone Away. Love this tune to bits. I'll say a big good evening to Richie. How you doing, big man? A good evening to you, Jackie. How you doing, sir? Good evening to your special face. What's cooking, darling? Good evening to yourself. Alright, tune called Gone Away, Hudson again. Hudson again.
I tried to reason. I tell myself you return, but you're gone. I know you're gone. You were mine for only a minute, and if I had you, I didn't intend it. But you've gone away. I keep telling my mind that you're not gonna stay. And I believe sometimes that I've lost you.
Hi everyone, I'm Trudy Trudiva, and when I am in the UK, I tune on to www.radiorjr.com. I'm always online.
Hi, this is Pete Honeygale here. Just to let you know that the only place to be this Saturday, the 31st of October, is the trip